As content creators, sometimes we have to do scary things, think outside the box, go out on a limb, etc. As you can see, this set of stairs went on, down and down. And added to the danger of it all was the slushy snow that kept falling. This made the boards very slippery. But I would do anything to give you a good video. So I handed the camera to CB and stayed at the top. Told you I would do anything for you. You're welcome. Speaking of that, Happy New Year to you, my friends. Let me take this opportunity to wish that all your dreams will become reality, and this year will be the start of great things for you and yours. And if you haven't subscribed yet, help a girl out and do that now. This is my dream, to have you as a subscriber, and that will only come to be if you push that subscribe button. Don't forget to click all in the drop-down menu so you don't miss any of my weekly uploads. Now, in this video, you will be getting 3 very strange stories. But there is another version of this video where you can get 6 stories. That is, if you become a member of the channel. I have put it at the lowest, only $1.99. This goes right back into the channel to help us go further, to get you more videos and stories. So think about it, will you? Also, like, comment, and share. That helps me out a lot too. Now, onto these stories. I am LT Barteck. Many tragedies have occurred around this bridge, as magnificent as it may look. The New River Gorge Bridge is located in a once remote area of West Virginia, just north of Fayetteville in Fayette County, West Virginia. At the time of the building, the arch made it the longest arch building in the world. It held that title until 2003, when the Loop Bridge in Shanghai, China, surpassed it. It is currently the longest single-span steel arch bridge in the United States and the 3rd highest bridge in the country. The Michael Baker Company built the bridge. Construction began in June 1974. The bridge now stands at 3,030 feet and 870 feet above the New River. If you want to get a visual other than this male standing under it, you can take the Washington Monument and stack 2 of the New York's Statue of Liberty on top of each other. Then you'll see how tall they are. Construction was completed on October 22, 1977, taking 3 years to build. The bridge was constructed by building temporary towers on each end of the gorge, and cables were strung between them. From these cables, trolleys ran lengths of steel over the gorge, where workers carefully assembled them together. It took $37 million to complete the bridge. Now, as I move around, point to note, the information on these boards here is quite interesting. I will mention some of the things here, but there is much more to read. So pause the video when you see them and take a look at it. I try to get close to it so you can see it clearly. Now for our first story, Robert Kovac. If you're a subscriber of this channel, you'll know that I usually take these stories and try to see them in my mind's eye, in the hopes of trying to get a picture of what happened. So here are the facts of the stories, plus what I think happened at that time. It was a cool evening on September 18th, 1998. The high of the day was 72 degrees Fahrenheit and dropping steadily. Robert Kovac moved with the grace of a 25-year-old male as he approached the ATM in Blacksburg, Virginia. which was the closest one to campus. He was heading out of town for the Labor Day weekend and needed the cash to get him there and back. He had had a long week, a long month, as a graduate student working on his thesis at Virginia Tech, and he was looking forward to the break and seeing his parents, family, and friends in Rivesville, West Virginia. He got the money he needed, slid into the driver's side of his geo-tracker, and pulled out of the parking spot. He was happy to be on his way. He had not seen his family in a while and was excited. He drove for a while, unable to stop his thoughts, though, from going a mile a minute, still on his thesis, his relationships, and especially his finances. He was having a hard time, but knew that the job offer he got from that architectural firm would make all this worthwhile. He felt the car begin to act up and looked down at the dash. He was shocked when he noticed that his gas gauge was below E. He was running on empty, and he felt his heart sink. Frustrated, he pulled off the road on Route 19, north of the New River Gorge Bridge. He thought of what to do and grabbed his knapsack. Then he got out of the car and locked the door. 5 days later, his geo-tracker would still be sitting on the side of the road, waiting for Robert. His family, who were expecting him and getting worried about his whereabouts, welcomed the news that they had found the car, but were still distraught at the whereabouts of Robert. A search party was formed, with many of his friends and family joining in. Hundreds of manpower were put into locating Robert, but there was no sign of him. The search continued for years as new information came in and other officers from nearby states lent a hand in locating Robert, but still he could not be found. Some of the officers speculated that he might have jumped, but those who knew him knew without a shadow of a doubt that he was not of that frame of mind. He loved his life, enjoyed his family and friends, and was looking forward to a bright future, or so they thought. The authorities searched below the bridge, both on land and in the river. Nothing. Others thought that someone might have hit him while he was walking in the dark on his way to get gas for his car and had either taken his body, dumped it elsewhere, or buried it. 18 years later, in March 2016, while the New River Gorge maintenance workers worked under the bridge in preparation for upcoming renovation work, they discovered a set of human remains on the rugged slope on the north side of the gorge. It was a Thursday afternoon. The crew immediately stopped and called the authorities. When they got there, what they found were several bones, clothes resembling those listed as what Robert was wearing when he disappeared, a wallet, a driver's license, and car keys, all belonging to Robert Kovac. They found the remains in a part of the grid that had been searched in 1998. However, it was a very dangerous area at the time to get to on foot. It was located directly under the bridge in a steep and very remote area, and might have been deemed too unsafe for the searchers at the time. It was only because it was necessary for the professional bushwhackers to get to why his remains were found. If it had not been for that reason, they're saying that his remains may have never been found. The DNA was collected and sent over to the local medical examiner's office, with some of the members of the Smithsonian called in to help confirm if this was a suicide or homicide. To this day, the results are still inconclusive. As a mother, this is heart-wrenching. There are a lot of thoughts pointing to suicide. The New River Gorge Bridge has been known to draw many people looking to end their lives. He was seen taking money out of the ATM but could not fill his tank. Was it that he didn't have enough, and this was the last straw that broke the camel's back? Or was it just a distracted driver, murderer? I don't know, but it is sad indeed. If any of my listeners hearing this feel like taking their lives, I want to tell you that you may not see the light at the end of the tunnel, but it is there. Just hang on, hang in there. Soon you will see it. Seek out someone who you can talk with if you wish, but know that at least one person loves you. So hang in there. I once had a friend who would call me every time and tell me that she felt like committing suicide. I would race to her side every time. After about the 5th time, I spoke with a mental health professional, and they told me that people who say that they would commit suicide usually don't. But I would still go to her just to be sure. So, most of the people who do commit suicide never really say anything. But sometimes they are signs and sometimes they are not. But we can only try to be there for each other. Our next story is about Susan Roop. This one is also a mystery. It was a bitterly cold day on February 12, 1979, as 29-year-old Susan Roop, affectionately known as Sue, walked 2 of her 3 children, Susie 9 and Jessica 7, to the school bus. Raymond Jr., Scooter 2, had stayed at his father's place for the weekend. Watching her with her kids, one would think there were 4, not 3 kids, with Susan being only 5 feet 1 inch and weighing only 120 pounds. It took a while, but recently her life had become an easy, laid-back routine since her divorce from Raymond Roop Sr. On school day, she would get the children ready for school, walk them to the school bus, and then go to the post office to drop her letter off to Pete Brown, her new love, and to see if any child support check was waiting for her from Raymond. But usually there was only a letter from Pete. She welcomed the peace because for a while her life was a nightmare. It started when she caught her husband with the babysitter and found that they had been having an affair right under her nose and in front of her children for a while. His infidelity and lack of care and respect for her had almost wrecked her entire world, but she knew she had to be there for her children. She had only slowly started to pick up the pieces when out of nowhere a car pushed her off the road, causing her to bang her head hard, leaving a nasty gash on her forehead, almost killing her. Then the car just disappeared as if nothing happened, as if she wasn't even a person. Then, as if the hounds of hell had her in their crosshairs, her house went up in flames without any rhyme or reason. Luckily, they were not home. Her children were spending the night with their father, and she was with her sister. She thought this was suspicious, though, but was too scared to point any fingers. But deep in her heart, she knew who had done it. That person wanted to hurt her and knew there wasn't going to be anyone home that night. Guess they didn't want to add murder to their arson charge. It got even darker when her ex-husband Raymond, in arrears with his child support, took her to court to get some of the insurance money for the house. All that might have put someone over the edge, but she was strong. Not because she was, but because she had to. And she kept on living and caring for her children. But life became bright again when she met Pete Brown. Pete had moved into the apartment in Holston, Cary, in the rural community of Bentry, right there in West Virginia, and they had a wonderful year together. But wanting to make life better for his new family, he joined the service and planned to send for her and the children after basic training. He did his best to stay connected, sending letters daily and money when he could. To Sue, her nightmare was coming to an end. She hadn't gone to the post office. It was too cold. She was waiting until it warmed up a bit. So she went back home and started tidying up around the house. It was about 8:30 a.m. when a vehicle pulled up beside her on the road where she was putting out the garbage. Mrs. Olstein, an elderly neighbor, heard the vehicle outside. She moved over to the window and recalled seeing a blue truck with a camper top, or was it a van, pull up beside Sue. She could not be sure. Her memories were fading. From her vantage point, she couldn't see the driver, but watched as Sue got in the vehicle and drove away. She looked out at the softly falling snow and figured that Sue might have accepted the ride to the post office because it was snowing and left that where it was. But that was the last time anyone would see Sue. Later that day, the children came home to find a note written by their mother telling them to go to Carol's house. But the original plan was to make Valentine's boxes. So the children disobeyed that order, thinking of making the boxes because their mother would be home soon anyway. But as the night approached with no sign of their mother, they got word to one of their mother's friends, who quickly came over to care for them. 2 days later, on Valentine's Day, their father, Raymond, came for them. At the same time, Sue's father, Eugene McMillan, was at the Gawley Bridge Detachment of the West Virginia State Police filing a missing persons report. While pulling them into his van, Raymond Roop told them that their mother had abandoned them. Later, while being questioned, he told the police that he had only gone to see them to drop off child support money after getting his tax returns. And seeing his children without Sue, he took them. For years, the police followed up on leads after leads, but nothing. A private investigator was even called in to help, but there was no sign of Sue. In desperation, Sue's mother contacted a psychic, but what she gave them was of no help. Then in December of 1993, 14 years later, a decomposing body was found on Bolt Mountain. The Raleigh County Sheriff's Office detective Steve Tanner was assigned to the case. They hoped that this would be the evidence to close the case of Sue, but the DNA was not a match. The remains were that of a 5 feet 4 inch person, while Sue was 5 feet 1. The wristwatch found on the body returned as inconclusive to a match to Sue's watch. The DNA also found that the body was of a 30 to 45-year-old female. Sue was 29. To this day, no one knows what happened to Sue. After 9 years of her missing, her family declared her dead. But they are still unsettled because the chapter about the disappearance of Sue is still left open. Now for our third story, George Andrew Gross. George Andrew Gross was not a fickle man. He was a retired firefighter in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a retired United States Corps veteran, a husband, and a father. Now retired at 56, he still tried to find ways to keep active. He searched around and found this beautiful state park and decided that he wanted to hike there. He told his relatives of his plans and set out on Friday, January 12, 2018, for Beckley in the New River Gorge area in West Virginia. His family tried desperately to get in touch with him later that day, but found that they couldn't. The authorities were notified, and on Monday, January 15th, rescuers found his truck at the park by Fern Creek Trailhead, which is the first part of a loop around the Alice Eastwood campground. Then later that night, rescuers found George's body near the Diamond Point area of the park, 2 miles from where he had parked. It is uncertain who or what killed George. and to this day, it is still a mystery. Well, now that we have ended these strange stories, I hope you got something from it. If you want to hear the other 3 stories and see additional footage from around this area, become a channel member. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and let me know your thoughts. I look forward to that more than you think. Well, that is all for now, folks. Love yourself and others, and I'll catch up with you on the next one. Love you. Bye.